So some of the hashtags, PX School, that's me, Camp Suzuki obviously, and things like experiential ed tech, integrated ed. If you use the hashtag cute puppies, like 15 million people will see what you just tweeted. So that's part of leveraging. That's part of leveraging this thing. Also, Twitter at PX School, and of course, we want to give recognition to the David Suzuki Foundation. So at David Suzuki FD.
Will you keep back at us?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. This morning, Jeff talked about people showing up and being present and hump day. I really respect that, and I think it's very important that we are able to maintain ourselves in this very long week. Camp is an extroverted place. There's standing on tables, there's singing songs, there's group hugs, but 50% of the world are introverts. 50%. And some of us, I'm a closet introvert, this is my confession, and some of us just need time to ourselves. So if any of you are feeling that way, and you think taking the next hour and a half off is going to allow you to recharge and revitalize so that you can enjoy what comes after this, that's totally cool with me. Feel free to up and excuse yourself at any point. This presentation is being filmed. It will be posted on my website. And we live in the digital age. You can access this from anywhere, at any time, any way you wish. So do what you need to do. Here are the 3 takeaways. This is like the last slide. So you just look at this and you're like, oh, I'm actually pretty good. I'll just go on the net, read a book. In order to get into my presentation, I want to give you an outline. And I want to frame it like it's a narrative. So we're going to talk about chapters throughout this presentation. And we'll have 3 very unique or different concepts to discuss. And then I'm going to tie it all together at the end. So I'll discuss one. It'll be mindset and terms, narrative and storytelling, and then marketing and communication. And I'll take each after that chapter and set it on the shelf. And then we'll bring it all and tie it back together. At the end of each chapter, we'll have some time for 1 or 2 questions just to clarify, and then we'll move forward. There will be an activity. The first part of the presentation will be about 45 minutes, and then we're going to have a nice outdoor activity where we kind of get back up into it. So, before I introduce myself, I think I do definitely respect and want to pay due to the Coast Nation territory on which we sit, and the hereditary lands of the Squamish Nation. I want to thank them. I'm not sure if anyone is in the Coast Nation, or Squamish, yeah. Thank you very much for hosting us, and thank you to them for coming in yesterday and contributing to this amazing event. Chapter 1. It's like a Quentin Tarantino film. So, yeah, no, you don't know that. So, my name is Brad Bitterham, and I introduce myself as an economist. And generally, in that I deal in the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. The service I most often produce, distribute, and help other people consume is education. Okay. I run an educational consultancy called Iterate Education Consultants, which has a branch called PX School. And the idea behind Iterated, is what we call it, is that people like yourselves are young, eager, passionate, people who want to get out in the world and do things. But you all will face similar obstacles to making your dreams come true. And often that is connecting with the community, marketing what you do, and insuring yourself as a business. So what we do is we provide those things for you. You come in with us. You work with us to create that thing you want to see in the world. And then hopefully we become a petri dish or a launch pad for you to take your business up and out on your own once you've kind of created community and let people know that they really need your program. So that's shameless self-promotion. So come see me if you have those ideas. I also am an educator, and I've started 2 schools. One that's operational, one that's going to launch next year. And the idea was that we really wanted to connect, everything we did was about connecting students to their learning in deeply experiential ways. This was a lesson I did on that integrated trigonometry, cartography, geography, English, social science, and physical education. So in one afternoon, we covered 6 great lessons in ways that you couldn't otherwise do. We use trigonometry to measure out contour lines. We drew hash marks on the rock itself in chalk, and then connected them and said, you know what, here's an abstract map. Here's the real thing, these real contour lines that you just drew. Any questions? No questions. It was quite good. It took me until second year university to understand contour lines. Before we move too far into this, it's really, really important that when we're having a conversation or a dialogue or a dialectic or even a debate, that we all come together to understand how like a common framework from which we begin. So we set our foundation. And the way we're going to do that is with our mindset. We're going to define some terms, understand the common language, and what that does is it helps ease us through the process of understanding where other people are coming from. Progress is impossible without change. Those who can't change their minds cannot change anything. This slide and the one that follows, I specifically put in for older audiences. Because when I grew up in an educational system that said there's one right answer, okay? And it's either the right answer or not the right answer. It was very binary. It was 1 or 0, black or white, right? And there was very little wiggle room. And I didn't function too well in that because I saw wiggle room everywhere. Well, how do we know it's this? What if it's not that? What if our fundamental assumptions are different? Get out. I was asked to leave class a number of times. I answered a question, there was a rhetorical question once, with, isn't that just common sense? And I got sent in grade 6. Yeah. So I encourage you as you're sitting here, you might butt up against some new ideas or commonly held assumptions that give us a very A to B kind of pathway to understanding, right? If you feel resistance, you're like, I don't think that's right. Or I see a lot of problems with that approach. Challenge yourself to take a more systems approach, okay? So here's our endpoint. How many ways are there to get there, right? We don't have to know the answer. We just have to get close to a good answer and then work with other people to figure out what's the best answer for us. So being really open, iterative, learning, and moving forward with that. Some of our terms and language. Who here has heard 21st century education? Yeah, quite a few of you, probably more than in any adult classroom. Did you hear it in schools? Where they're talking about creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, citizenship, digital literacy, the one they always leave out. What do you think they always leave out? It is universally ignored in these core competencies. Yeah?
I keep going back to personal care, but I don't know if that's...
Yeah, personal care, they talk about it, and it's in there. Ecological literacy. In my research, I haven't found anybody who's talking about ecological literacy as a core competency for people growing up in the 21st century. We're going to change that. OE3, that's the term I'll be using instead of outdoor ecological experiential education. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I'll use words interchangeably, such as marketing. I might say persuasion, or I might say advocacy. To me, in the context of this discussion, that's all the same. Right? We're trying to get people to buy our product, whether it's computers or ecologically literate behavior. We have to be persuasive in marketing our ideas so that people feel that they want to do it. Education is just good marketing. Who here likes math? Yeah? Who here doesn't like math? I'm willing to bet you like math because you had a good teacher. Right? Can I hear that? Yeah. You had a teacher who knew how to market math. They told you why it was important to you, why you needed it, why you should care. And now you like math. So it's a good example. Audience equals a learner equals a consumer. I'm going to use those interchangeably. And of course, systems versus binary thinking we just discussed. So now, to kind of go meta, I feel like we can have a good conversation. Because some people are going to come with assumptions about the language we use, and going to say, I don't feel like we're marketing this. But in the context of marketing, like recycling, it doesn't feel right. But for the context, it's going to work. I also have 3 key theses. So basically fundamental assumptions on which I base my presentation. And if you know what my assumptions are, you can question them, or you can understand where I'm going in the directions I'm going a little bit better. The realities of the 21st century is that it's digitally saturated. And nature-based, technology-enabled experiences, creating transformative personal narratives. Do you feel like you're having a transformative personal moment in the narrative that you're writing this week? Right? Definitely. Like the story of your life is being written this week. And this is going to be like a spike in the action, the rising action, if you remember the grade 10 English. So, the first thing I'm going to talk about is education. Or I guess that's the second. Chapter 2, education. Now, why am I going to talk about education? I'm going to speak to education because it fundamentally influences how we develop as a society. The way we're taught is the way we understand the world. My mother doesn't Google very well because she thinks there's one answer out there and she doesn't know how to get there. She doesn't know the website to type in to get there because that's how she was taught. One right answer, everything else is wrong. She's learning though, I'm teaching her. But we live in the future, and it's a marvelous future, full of fantastic technology, but also there's some scary technology out there. And how this is changing our educational system is at its roots, at its core, education just got turned on its head. And so the generation that's moving through this educational system has the benefit of this 21st century education approach, will have a completely different mentality than me, certainly than my parents. And they're going to be deeply engaged in personalized learning that's learner-centric, media-driven, and highly technologically influenced. So up here it says, technology supports learning, not just instruction. And I'm going to come back to that in another slide. Just want to pull out some of the big things here. 21st century learning is changing from transmissive. It's funny because I'm just standing here telling you that it's not transmissive. But when you get into it, you'll see why.
So meta.
Yeah, I'm terrible. It's changing from transmissive, where I just give you something and then you write it on a sheet of paper and I tell you how smart you are, to transactive, where I ask you questions and you ask me questions, and then you go onto Twitter and you find someone who's an expert in the field, and there's this transaction that's happening. It's very participatory, and it's deeply personalized. This is the generation that's coming up, and these will be the types of interactions and communication that they expect. Okay? So we're going to move into marketing and narrative and why that's important, but it's important to understand who our audience is and what they expect from communication and learning. Creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, citizenship, digital, social, financial, ecological literacy. We've all been in the indoor classroom. We've had this for 150 years. This doesn't look too much different than that, except kids now face each other. They call that collaboration. We also have outdoor classrooms. We've had these for a millennia, more since like the dawn of human beings. We've sat in circles and talked to one another and learned. A little more formalized now, some places. But we are on the precipice, and just entering into right now, this fantastically exciting phase of the classroom in the technology. And it's not necessarily an online, it is an online classroom, but it's broader than that. It's the classroom in the technology where we can go in and we can learn. And we're not necessarily responsible to anyone else for our learning, but we can go and do that. Right? We can get excited about something and figure it out. It's not just about reading Shakespeare on an iPad. Okay, reading Shakespeare on an iPad is not digital literacy, right? That's reading Shakespeare on an iPad, right? That's a cop-out if you ask me. Okay, but it's about creating something once you've done that. It's not that we use technology more, it's we use it more effectively, right? What does the data tell us about how people are using this? What do we know about human dispositions that are going to enable us to do what we want to do? If we are teaching like this, and this kind of approach is what we take, we're training people for this. Who would like a job in this office? You would? I thought you were like, yeah! Ubiquitous! This is a real office, and it doesn't look that old. Like, there's still offices that look like this. So, another fundamental assumption I have here is that everyone in this room has probably had some sort of transformative moment in a natural setting that has driven you to say, oh, I love this. And I love this so much that I want to protect it. And not so, and that I want to protect it, I want to be an advocate for other people to do the same. Does that resonate with people? People are here because nature's cool? Okay. And so often there's been this polarizing philosophy between the digital and the natural, right? The analog and the digital. And say those two things are exclusive. You can't go on a trip, in a backcountry trip with a cell phone because you ruin it. And likewise, the digital, it's an indoor sedentary activity. You sit at a computer at a desk and you just sit there, and it's not very good for you. And these two things, they have nothing in common. The way I see it, they've gone so far at the end of the spectrum that they've come back together. And my question here is, how do we find complementary avenues between digital literacy and ecological literacy, or nature-connected, technology-enhanced experiences, technology-enabled experiences, to find that point where these two things can work together, not just working together, but amplifying one another, right? And accelerating the objectives of both. Okay? It's going back to that binary thinking. How many ways can we take those two things that we know are important and bring them together to make really exciting programs to meet the broadest demographic possible? But now I'm going to take that and put it up on the shelf over here. That's education in a nutshell. That's 21st century education in a nutshell. Okay? I'm going to come back to it and tie it all in, but I'd like to talk about narrative. Before I do, were there any questions about that? Anything that just come up that you're like, yes, and I'd also like to know one quick thing.
I just know whose quote that was that you just showed us.
Which one?
We don't know ourselves. One that you just had up there. It was anonymous. It was just weird. Go back. And then go back again. And then again. That one.
Kurt Hahn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Kurt Hahn, founder of everything in experiential education. If you know Kurt Hahn, the guy was like, he's a virus, he's in everything. We're starting a conference about Kurt Hahn next year. So narrative. What is narrative? Yes. Hit your hand up. Yeah, great. Narrative, storytelling, right? It's transmitting information in a compelling way, right? It's creating a system by which we can share ideas, thoughts, concepts, observations, so that it becomes sticky, right? Because if I give you a list, right? If I give you a list of things to buy the store, you won't remember 10. But if I tell you a story about like the dinner I'm going to make, you'd be like, oh yeah, we need all these things. So we get sticky information. But where did storytelling come from? This may or may not work. That's an actual. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Oh, you're telling a story?
No, I won't tell a story.
Oh.
But
I was ready.
for millennia since fire was discovered, we've sat around it because it gives us safety, security. Boy, I really hope this video is loaded. Warmth, cooked food that we can preserve. But it also allows us time to come together and share stories and talk about our day. Right? We talk about our experiences. And when we do that, hearing someone's voice, hearing the voice resonate out and resonate into your body, that voice affects your energy field and it becomes a part of you. And the smells and the sounds and everything about it creates such a rich sensory experience. There we go. Come on. That we can't help but take these messages in and remember them, and remember those experiences. So I'm sure you probably don't remember what your parents told you, but I'm sure you have a good feeling for what your parents may have said. Am I right? You can feel like, my parents, I don't think they feel too good about this at the moment. This is Burning Man, by the way. That's a fire celebration.
You take that picture?
No. No, all of these are, I think I try to get them all open source just because I knew someone would say, "Did you pay for this?" And in this narrative, and as we share our experiences and we share the wisdom that comes from our experiences, it's more than just saying what happened, right? It's more than just like saying, I went stand-up paddleboarding and it was really nice. It's about telling the story. And there, in that narrative, there becomes some sort of natural mystic that seeps into the sharing of that story that allows people to connect to it. And when we open up that natural mystic that flows from narrative and storytelling, we create empathic bonds between people. It's these empathic bonds that draw people into the values, the ideas, the concepts, and notions that you're sharing. If you ever have watched, and I'm sure you have, a TED Talk, you'll know that it's all stories. They're all storytellers. And the best ones have this really compelling narrative and their voice, and you really feel it. Who has seen, I think it's the top rated
Ken Robinson.
TED Talk. Ken Robinson's good. He's hilarious.
He's amazing.
Jill Bolte Taylor, when the neurologist who had a stroke.
Oh,
Neuroscientist,
yeah.
right? Talk about, she could have just said, I'm a neuroscientist who had a stroke, and it was very interesting. But her story is like, you get so caught up in it. She cries and holds her brain, and like I can see it. I can feel this story still because of the techniques she used. She made it very emotional, right? She made it not just about a blood vessel rupturing in her brain. She made it about what is the purpose of life, something that we all share. It was quite novel, right? And boy, it sure was memorable when she's holding a human brain there. But these are some of the traits of a good narrative, the sticky narrative, the things that stay with you, that resonate within you. And when things start resonating within you, you have a tendency to follow up with them. This is a Juicy Fruit commercial from the 80s. I'm not sure I'm going to play it. I just liked it because there's double daffies. Moves that nobody does anymore. Narratives also are very, very, they're profound in that they can draw people in through the imagination and give them a larger sense of self. And World of Warcraft, specifically this South Park episode, is a fantastic demonstration of how this works. But it's not like, there was a clip of Randy Marsh talking about, he's like, out here in the world, I'm a simple geologist. But inside, I am Falcor, defender of nations. Right? He's like, and this is who I am, and these are my people, and it's a community, and I'm important in here. And the imagination that it draws out, and the sense of greater connection, is what makes things like World of Warcraft so popular. Right? Zelda, pretty popular, but you're pretty much on your own. World of Warcraft, insanely popular, because you're co-creating narratives with people. You're going on not expeditions, all these travels and things. I will try and play this. When we're watching this, I want you to try and pick out some of the key words that you hear.
I do consider myself half Vulcan. I did draw the line over having my ears surgically altered.
It began as a vision of the future.
The best thing I've ever done in my life. Star Trek, the blueprint for a better mankind.
It became a phenomenon
I've been asked to marry people.
that has touched millions.
Everybody's seen a picture of Barbara Adams.
I wore my uniform just as any other officer in the military would wear theirs.
Star Trek is part entertainment and part philosophy.
Now, they've got their own movie. Trekkies.
I'd rather, like, as a Spiner fan.
I like that.
Who's your favorite captain? Kirk. He's a spy. excited.
They're devoted.
This is my third convention.
20 or 30 or more.
50 or 60.
They're misunderstood.
Welcome to Starbase Dental.
So, this is reception.
This is where the patients check in.
It's not like any other dentist office I've ever been in.
And they may just be the most intelligent life form you've ever met.
This costume is the uniform that I've designed on the film project that I'm working on, and it should be noted that this is only a prototypical version.
I am guard 48 and this is guard number 28.
That's right.
Seriously, Star Trek is one of the stickiest stories out there. People have taken Trekkers and Trekkies. You have to watch the documentary to know the difference. But if I called a Trekker a Trekkie, they would let you know. They have taken this and translated it into a philosophy for living, a moral compass, a community organizer. They're creating their own Star Trek series out of this. They've taken the narrative, it has spoken to them, it has been honored by the people who did it first and promoted it. And they've embodied it to the point where, I'm just going to try and make this bigger. They've embodied it to the point where you could almost call it some sort of religion or philosophy. They support one another, they're very active, and oh, I'm getting distracted. Stand by. There we go. And so when we're talking about how to convey our messages and how to market the things that we want to advocate for, if it's selling a computer or following something like Star Trek, or specifically kind of ecological literacy or ecological action, we should really look to Star Trek and find out what they did. How did they get people so ravenous for their messaging and their product and their values, right? It's fantastic. And that's where I want to move this, is trying to take those two things, education as the way society develops and the people that are going to be the consumers of your message. Narrative was, what can we do to, or like, how do humans understand the world around them? What are our natural dispositions for learning? And now I want to go into marketing, which is the next step, and asks exactly what is it going to take for us to be persuasive in our message, right? What notes do we have to hit along the way for people to take up what we want them to take up? To begin sharing our values and become active in things that we want them to be active in. This will only be just a moment, but when we're talking about marketing, we're talking about persuasion, right? If I can persuade you that X is better than Y, I've marketed it well. And if I can perhaps even educate you on the benefits of X over Y, then that works too. Education, marketing, and persuasion. Aristotle's rhetorical triangle. If you're trying to persuade someone to do something, you can take 3 different pathways. Ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos, it's what everybody's doing. It's kind of normalized, it's an ethic, it's the good, right thing to do. Logos, it makes sense. Like, the value on your return is very high, and therefore it's a good idea. It's logical, it's rational. Okay? But the most powerful is pathos, emotion. And we come back to it in the storytelling. What do we need to do to reach people with our message and be persuasive that they should join us? We need to appeal to the emotion. Kairos also makes up the K in the PTEX school, is knowing the timing and when to do it. Okay? When the timing is right. Here's Simon Sinek. Anybody familiar with Simon Sinek? Great. So without too much introduction, I'm going to see if I can play this with a small down here in the corner. Because Simon talks about his golden circle, and he can explain it way better than I can, so I don't feel like I need to.
I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it. Whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable.
Okay, Simon Sinek. I love that guy, right? He's got a dog. This is a fantastic TED Talk to watch the whole thing. Because he's talking about purpose. Something you spoke about this morning, I believe, right? Was that? What is your life's purpose? Right? That's what he's talking about, the why. Now, if you can share your life's purpose, you're going to create empathy. You're working with pathos. Right? The most powerful messaging we can give is something that we're passionate about, something that drives us, something that someone says, I don't know what they just said, but man, sign me up. I'm on board with that. Right? The ethos is kind of like we do something well. We're reaching out through social media, something that people want to be a part of. And the logos is logical. Here's the plan. Ready? Here's the plan. I'm going to lay it out in 3 steps. We'll follow that. It'll be great. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. What is your purpose in life, and how are you going to market that narrative out in the world? This is where we're headed. And this is my favorite. It's it's so hot in here, it's so sleepy, but that's okay with me. I love this commercial. It'll wake you up a little. If you're sleeping, wake up. Just for this commercial, then go back to sleep.
Heaven first. No worries, man. Everything will be alright.
Yeah, man.
Spread the bar. Sticky man come soon. Yeah? Wicked coffee, Mr. Jim. Julia, turn the front the other way around.
Hey, Dad, you're from Minnesota, right?
Yes, I. The land of 10,000 lakes. The Gopher State.
So in conclusion, things are pretty dismal.
You know what this room needs? A smile. Who wanna hear with that? Traveling along with a song that we're singing. Come on, get happy.
You guys are 3 minutes late.
Don't be no clown on a sunny day.
Yeah, chill, Winston.
Sir? Respect, boss man.
That's the problem with German engineers.
What's their why? What's the why in this? Get happy. It's actually hashtag get happy at the end there. Get happy. You know, what we want to do as an organization, we want to make you happy. It's that simple. But it's massively transformative. How do we do it? We give you an experience that brings, you know, there are no clouds on a sunny day, right? It's sunshine, it's fun. It just happens to be that they sell price, right? This is the perfect example of how to market your message clearly, effectively, and with that deep emotional tie in the narrative. 12%. 12% placement of the thing that they were selling in this ad, 12% of the time, and they never mentioned it. You know, conventional wisdom, if you work from the outside in, like the logos, ethos, pathos, they'd say, the all-new Volkswagen Beetle is a 2.6-cylinder engine with new double-wide track steering. And like, nobody cares. People want to be happy. They don't care about how many cylinders your Beetle has. I watch that like every day, I think. Are you kidding? Yeah.
Do you have a website?
I used to. 1980 Volkswagen van. And you know what? I was pretty happy. Pretty happy. So I put this thing that's controversial. Frank Luntz wrote a memo to the office of George W. Bush and said we should change the term global warming to climate change. Because it's called the Luntz memo, it's famous. Because global warming is really scary and it makes it sound like we're doing it. So we changed it to climate change because it's a little, you know, softer and there's more question about it, whether or not it's actually happened. So although I despise this odious character, this is what I will say, use the royal we, this is what we're fighting against, right? People on the other side of the fence are using tactics like this, you know, not letting the truth get in the way of a good story, as Mark Twain said, in order to market their message. It's really hard to battle that if we're always letting the facts and truth, like pure truth, get in the way of what we're saying. So, you're not going to hear this very often, but feel free to bend the truth. Right? If you think you're virtuous in what you're doing, just bend the truth. So closing out this idea of marketing, how we market ourselves, how we market our values, our message, how we onboard people in ways that are deeply meaningful to them. These are questions that I want you to consider. And now we get into what does this have to do with me? You know, I work in a field that has nothing to do with this. What does that have to do with me? We're going to contextualize it a bit and look at the way when you leave here, everyone has to do a service or a volunteer opportunity, right? And I imagine many of you in larger ways or small ways and deeply pervasive ways, you're engaged in some sort of advocacy. We all are. So I would like to offer you some strategies and tactics to become effective marketers of your message. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to look at data. You want to figure out how to do something. This is a data-saturated world. Let's look at data. This list is insanely boring, but I picked out some interesting things. Videos that are 15 seconds or shorter are shared 37% more. Boom. Videos that are 15 seconds or shorter. It's higher uptake. Video and email marketing can increase click rates by more than 90%. If you're sending someone a website, like, hey, check out my website, put up a video first, a 15-second video, and they'll go in. Right? It's using data and data mining to improve the uptake of your message. Also, definitely have cats in your video, because they generate over 1.6 billion views, and dogs only 1 billion. No matter what you're saying, no matter what you're advocating for, hold a kitten. You're 150% more effective. Nobody cares why. Who cares why? Just do it. Right? Yeah.
The organization Shit Harper did.
Shit Harper did?
Yeah.
No.
No. They're incredible. They just have their website that lists like all of the shitty things that Harper has done with the conservatives, but their marketing is a picture of Harper holding a kitten.
I want to see why Harper, like, why is Harper going to eat that kitten? I don't know. Because obviously he's
So thank you for explaining that tactic.
Do you have like a links to that last slide?
I have, this will be publicly, freely available on my website, and the whole video is being recorded, so. Yeah,
We'll check out your website for the video.
yeah. And I don't have any cats on the website, but I'm going to.
Forget it. Yeah, I'm not checking it out now.
So here's where I'm going with this. Here's where I'm going with this. I'm going to try and now start to tie everything together so we have a better understanding. These are things that you learn in teachers' college and maybe marketing school, but maybe, I don't know. I didn't go to marketing school. Average retention rates of messaging. Lecture, reading, audiovisual, demonstration, passive, transmissive techniques, right? Sit there, I'll give you something, and then you're supposed to learn it. Participatory, right, where we're going with 21st century education. This is what your audiences are going to be expecting when you're messaging to them. Participatory teaching methods, discussion, practice, teaching others. Hey-oh, 90% retention rate. This is where you should be focusing your advocacy. Right? Someone says, I need you to go out and make an outreach program. Scrap, pretty much. Focus on this. Because what we know about the way people learn is they learn best, or it's the most complex learning and the most complex, deep, embodied, meaningful understanding circles up from remembering, understanding, to applying. Here's where we start to get the juicy stuff. Analyzing, evaluating, creating. This, sticky learning. Very sticky. Once you start doing this kind of stuff, you're going to find that, that people retain the information longer. And not just that, it becomes a part of them. This is the crux of what I want to talk about today. If you remember anything from here, is that in order to be successful in your marketing, you must allow, wow, this is, like, I can't say this, but I'm going to. Like, I'm going to say it like this, but take it down a notch. I'm being hyperbolistic. You absolutely, without a doubt, must have your audience co-creating content with you, right? If your audience begins to co-create the content that reflects your values, they embody it. It becomes a part of them. And they trek out. They become Trekkies, right? Then they start living your message because it's part of them. It's not just a shirt they wear. One important part, this kind of comes out a bit of left field, but we need to meet people where they're at. I call back to, okay, we've got experiential, like OE3 over here, digital literacy over there. Those two things don't mesh. We want kids to be out in nature, but if we just take kids out of their basement from in front of a warcraft and put them in a watercraft, that can cause some agitation, right? And they're not completely open. We can create a progression and a spectrum of activities that lead them there that way, and in such a way that they choose to do that. So, how do we blend that? Oh, yeah, there's so many ways. QR codes on a fitness trail, right? Kids run from one fitness trail to the next. Look at a QR code, watch a YouTube video about like a proper push-up style, and then they do it. Does it, like, is our objective to have kids drop their phones? If it's not, then let them take their phones. Integrate it. If it's physical health, they're getting help, just as healthy as they would without a phone. Geocaching down the bottom right-hand corner, and then, you know, taking technology into the outdoor classroom and blending these things. I think is anybody involved in this organization? Taking us Mount Ecological? Anybody remember Mount Ecological? Yeah, of course we are. So you can be very, you get to see this, you can be very happy that your money that you spend at the co-op is going to a program like this. They have values. They want to see, like, their why is more kids outside are happier. Like, the more kids get outside, the happier they are. It increases wellness. The way that they've structured their marketing campaign in this instance is by having students co-create content that speaks to their values. Kids are out embodying this. They're living this, right? This is genius. This is exactly what you want, because the kids get out there and they might not know anything about beetles and bugs, but they do this photo contest or video contest. And then they're like, hey, I kind of dig this stuff. I think I'll leave my camera behind next time and just go sit in the field, right? It makes it it's slippery. It's a slippery activity. And it kind of draws them into that place where you want them to be without necessarily saying, you have to be where we want you to be and not in this place that we don't like. Probably, or I should say, don't understand. That's ingress. Anybody here gamer? Gamers in the house? Yeah? Have you heard of ingress? There you go. I'm not going to talk about it. I talk about it a lot, don't I? Every time I meet, I go to like functions with my wife, and the next thing you know, I've got my phone out showing people ingress, and she's like, oh, okay. First, he introduced himself as an economist, which isn't true. Oh, you'll have to check it out to see. So when we look back at that take the outside, max sponsor thing, kids are out there talking about what to do. They've got the video equipment, and they're sharing a message. One more you can put down here, I think, is celebrate, right? People are celebrating that and saying, you've created value in the world, and we thank you for that. You are a valuable person. You are a contributor to this, and you are important in that. It's a democratic issue of social justice, right? Because it's almost free to do this. You can find resources. And it hits all these higher order, super sticky learning patterns. You want kids to learn about ecological literacy, get them creating content that supports that. Chapter, one of the chapters. Praxis, the application of theory. So, going meta just for a second, we're about to go out and do an activity. But I've had you read, you've definitely heard, images and videos, right? So I've tried to cover my bases on the pyramid. But what I really want to do is have you create, evaluate, and analyze in the doing, right? You're going to design a little presentation. It's actually models, experiencing lessons, all of those things. Because I want you to take home this as a sticky message. I want my messages, my values, to be embodied by you because it's your choice, right? You choose to do this activity, and therefore my values are then inculcated. It's very sneaky, but it's going to work. So, I've worked recently on these things called teachable moments. Who here has heard of a teachable moment? Yeah, sure. You're walking through the forest with a group, and you're like, oh yeah, check out this western red cedar. Did you know that the Squamish people use the western red cedar for, it was a corn. What did you guys do in corn yesterday? What did you use?
Dog's bane. Yeah.
Was that?
Dog's bane.
Dog's bane?
Yeah.
And who used that? Was that traditional to this area? I don't know.
No, it's not in California.
Not to this area?
We also use it, or we talk about metal, which are.
Bitter and gelatin.
So you're walking through the forest and you see something interesting, and you stop your group and you're like, hey folks, did you know that this really interesting thing is a thing? And they're like, no, I didn't. You're like, that's neat. What's that?
That's neat.
Yeah. Hey, that's neat. Your mountain goobers out here. You're like, oh, okay. Well, just like off the cuff. No, let's go. Well, you've shared that with whatever, whoever the kids, maybe 3 or 6 kids that were standing near you. But what if you could take that teachable moment, whip out your phone, and record yourself telling the kids this. And then you hashtag it Tweachable, you hashtag it Western Red Cedar, you hashtag it biodiversity, hashtag whatever else. And it's loaded up onto Twitter as a database for people. And this is what I've started to do, and I try to encourage other people to do. And here's an example of the Tweachable moment that I did in House Sound.
Hi everyone, Brad Goodham again with another Teachable moment. I'm here at the top of the Sea to Sky gondola to tell you about Howe Sound. It's Canada's southernmost fjord. A fjord is a long, narrow inlet with steep sides that was carved out by glaciers. You can visit Howe Sound and the Sea to Sky district either on Twitter or in real life for some good old-fashioned outdoor experiential ecological education. Either way, it's beautiful.
That's true. It is beautiful.
You have a retweet and favorite.
Yeah, I retweeted and favorited it from another account. I'm like, guys, just getting off the ground. It's not a big deal. But the idea is that Twitter is free to use, democratic, it can be anonymous. Teachers can do this. Teachers can have their students doing it and becoming co-creators. Right? And if we have a large enough bank, you can go through and see the most valuable ones. And as educators yourselves, as marketers, as advocates, you can use these resources to show people who might not otherwise be able to get to those places, or who you think might just need a little nudge to go and explore those regions. And it's a gateway, right? Is it as good as being up there? No, it's not. But who said it had to be, right? It's that slippery slope, and when we can kind of get people curious about these things. So, I mean, you know, someone in Iowa could be doing a lesson on fjords, and you can't just go out and look at a fjord in Iowa. But if you go to Twitter, you can see what a fjord looks like. Canada's southernmost fjord. It was like 9 takes too. I was really nervous. I'm standing there holding a phone and talking to myself.
I hope people were watching.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyway, it's what it is. Social media is not about the exploitation of technology. It's about service to community. Okay? It's about service to community. It's about creating networks. The most powerful professional network I have is likely Twitter. That's a camera, believe it or not. So is this. I would use this. It's an explanation of how to tweet a video. If anybody needs to know how to tweet a video, you're going to be in groups of 3. Just try and find other people, like open source that knowledge. This is like for old people who don't know what a hashtag is.
I know.
You know what a hashtag is?
I said I don't. I'm joking, I do.
There you go.
Can we spell tweetable?
Oh yeah, it's right here. Tweetable.
I remember you were doing a tweetable moment when there's a fire going on and marketing up.
Yeah, yeah. Linnea and I were battling a forest fire startup. I was like, oh, hey, tweetable moment. She's like, evacuation? Maybe we should evacuate? No. This will only take 9 or 10 days. Yeah.
What did OE3 stand for?
Outdoor, experiential, and ecological education. I believe it's also a hashtag for umlaut. There's something in Norway that's OE3 as well. So here's what we're going to do. This is where we kind of can get active. You can break yourselves off into teams of 2 or 3 or 4. That's fine. And I want you to record a 30-second video. If you have Twitter, you can record it through Twitter. And feel free to post it with these hashtags. If you don't have Twitter, or you have a professional account and just don't want to post this, just record a 30-second video. You can then email it to me here, and when we come back, we'll watch them and we'll see what happens. The question, what's the natural question that happens next?
What are we videoing?
Yeah, what are we videoing? Good question. Anything, right? Walk outside, see what captures you. Do you want to talk about Gambier Island? Do you want to talk about Howe Sound? Ideally, it would be something to do with Camp Suzuki. That'd be great. And then you could hashtag Camp Suzuki and put like, @David Suzuki Foundation, and they'd be like, oh, these guys are rocking, folks and rock stars out there. Look at them like blowing up our social media. They would, I'm sure, would they love that? Where'd Linda go? Yeah, they'd love that. And then we'll come back, I'll go on Twitter, I'll do the search for the hashtag tweetable, hashtag Camp Suzuki, and we'll just watch some of the videos you came up with. 30 seconds, it's harder than you think, it's more fun than you think. Any questions? Questions before we all jump up? Let's take time check? Okay, 20 minutes. 20 minutes, 2:56.